What's up, my fellow actors? Welcome to the Acting Career Center live for the first time going live here on YouTube. So, trying to answer your questions here today to, again, help you learn the skills you need to help you break into the film and television industry. So, if you don't know me, my name is Kurt Yu. I've been a working actor since 2009. I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia, pursuing my film and television career down here. But I didn't get my career started in Atlanta. I started back in Cleveland, Ohio, in a very small market. I moved to Atlanta back in 2016. So for those of you who are trying to get some of your acting questions answered, whether it's about the career, whether it's about specific to auditions or self-taping or any other topic, headshots, resumes, anything like that, feel free to type them right in the comments below and I'll start answering them. Great, I'm seeing people show up already. So I have the comments window over here on a different screen. So if you see me looking over to the side, that's what I'm looking at. I'm not trying to purposefully look away from the camera, okay? So the first thing I'd love to hear is, I'm seeing some questions pop up already, so I'll start getting to the questions in a second. I'd love to hear where people are from. So type in the comments where you currently are. Because I know there are definitely people outside of my city, outside of Atlanta, I'm sure outside of the state of Georgia, and potentially outside of the country as well. So let's see where some people, hello everybody that is joining. Awesome. I'm going to look over and see, yep, we have some questions already, so I'll start from the top and just start scrolling down and try to answer as many questions as I can, excuse me, one by one as we move forward. All right, people are answering with, I don't know how to pronounce that, Muncie, Indiana, Augusta, Georgia, awesome, Greece, Mexico, California, Missouri, Tunisia, Seattle, Philippines, Albania, New York City, Germany, awesome, Florida, Washington, D.C., Boca Raton, Florida. This is so cool. Look at all these people from all over the country and the world. Right now in New York, moved from the Midwest like me, super cool. South Africa, Indianapolis, Florida, South Africa, LA, Maryland. Very cool, guys. All right. So why don't we just start diving into the questions, because I know there's going to be a lot of questions that pop up. Start typing them down in the live chat right away, and I will try to answer them as we move along. So I'm going to scroll up to the top and start from the beginning. Holly Davidson, you had a question right before we even started this off. So you said so many acting classes available. How do you choose? Are some better than others? Certain techniques better than others? My head is spinning. I need to choose soon. That's a great question, and I think it's a feeling that a lot of actors have, and I know I had that feeling when I first started as well. But when I started in Ohio, I didn't really have access to a lot. There was really only one major acting school, so that was the one that everybody went to. Luckily for the students in that school, it was a very good class, very good teachers at that school. But in some markets, there are going to be more opportunities, and especially right now, so many classes are available online that you can start taking online acting classes via Zoom from teachers in New York, from teachers in LA, from teachers in London, from all over the world. So that's what's really neat about this. I mean, obviously, with the whole pandemic situation, it's really sad. But if you can find a silver lining with what's happening right now from an actor standpoint, is that we have access to so much more training that we never had before, because so many classes are going online. So to answer your question, it's a very personal question, whether or not what technique is better, because if you look at all of the successful actors out there, even going up to the Oscar-winning actors, Emmy-winning actors, and you study their backgrounds, some have studied Meisner, some have studied Strasberg, some have studied Stella Adler technique, some have studied Chubbuck, or whatever it is. There are actors from all different backgrounds that have found success. So I think it's a lot of it has to do with just finding what's going to work best for you. And one of the things that I recommend is that so many acting classes, at least in my experience, offer a free class to audit. So I definitely encourage you to take advantage of those, so you can sit in a class and see if it's something that you actually would like to do before you actually pay money to enroll in it. But otherwise, I think it's also smart to not just be married to one class your entire career. Like, start taking some classes, and as soon as you feel like you've not necessarily you've gotten everything out of it, but you start to feel like you get what's going on in that particular class or that particular technique, start taking another one and see how you can apply a different technique into what you've already learned. I like to really equate it to from like a martial arts standpoint, the way like Bruce Lee talked about martial arts. It's not about just learning karate or just learning taekwondo or just learning jujitsu. It's about learning everything that you can and then absorbing it all for yourself and seeing what works best for you and creating your own technique out of it. And I think a lot of the successful actors, look at their acting technique in that way. So that's a great question. Let's move on. Where should we be sending our questions? Just type them right into the live chat right here. When you get an audition, do they give you a script to read? Yes, absolutely. 99% of the time they will give you, if it's a film and TV audition, they'll give you the audition sides, and the audition sides are just a few pages of the script for your character, and that's the scene they want you to perform for your audition. If it's a live audition, you would go into the casting director's office and you will have prepared that scene and go into that office and you perform that scene in their office. If it's a self-tape, that means they'll want you to record your audition at home and send it in to the casting director, in which case you will prepare that scene the same way you would do if it were live, but instead of going into the office to perform it, you record that audition at home and then you send it to them in whatever way they ask you to send it to them. What do you put on a reel? So on an actor's reel, you would put for film and television, you put any film and television work that you've done. Now, obviously, when you're first getting started, you probably haven't been in any TV shows or in any movies. So you would put on your reel any short films or student films or independent projects. I highly recommend you go and start making short films with your friends from acting class, with other actors that you know. This is why it's really great to surround yourself with other actors and other people in the industry. And this is one of the huge side benefits of being in acting class. Acting class is not just about learning the craft and learning your skills to become a better actor, but it's gaining that community and building your network, because I can't tell you how many opportunities I've had that I've gotten from other students in class, from other from my teachers and things like that. So start acting in student films, in short films, and things that you create yourself, and then build your reel from that. Actually, you just reminded me. I'm going to show you really quick. I'll get to more of your questions. I'm glad you guys are asking questions right now. I'll get to more of them in a second here. But your question about a reel, if you look at my demo reel right now on IMDb, you can search my name on IMDb. You'll see my demo reel, and it's got a lot of film and television stuff because I've done a lot of film and television in the past few years. But before I did any of that, I started brand new with no experience, just like everybody else. And when I got my first couple little short films, then those were my demo reel. There's nothing fancy about those. So I'll show you one of my very first short films from over 10 years ago. It's not great acting, it's not great production value, but it's something. I just want to show you that everybody kind of starts from everywhere. So hopefully I'll be able to share my screen right here. Let's see. All right, let me share screen and webcam, and I think you'll be able to play. I'm going to play this right now. Look at that guy walking into the room.
Yeah.
You seen this kid?
Nope.
Look again. Look at how much hair I have.
Pal.
You would think that this is back in the 80s, but this is still in the 2000s. This was like 2008 or 9 or something like that. Wasn't that important?
Nope.
Is this how you run things around here?
All right, we're not going to watch this whole thing because it's not a great short film, but it was a lot of fun to work on. So, all right, let's get back into this. So that my point with showing that is that everybody kind of, whoops, I'm still showing my screen. You can see all these comments that I'm reading right now. Those are your questions that are popping up on the screen. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. My point in showing that little clip is that was on my demo reel when I first started. It was just a short film that I did. It's definitely not high production value. It doesn't look like a professional movie or anything like that. But everybody starts with clips like that. That's on your demo reel until you get better credits and better footage. And then doing that type of stuff, you take off your demo reel when you start getting more professional credits. All right. Okay. So my second question, say now you were good at your audition, then they give you a callback. What happens next? So if you get a callback, then you actually go. Most of the time, callbacks, even if your first audition was self-taped, a callback will be in person. So a callback is usually with the director or with the producers of the project. If it's for a commercial, then the callbacks a lot of times will be with the clients. So if you audition, for instance, for a McDonald's commercial and you got a callback, then the representatives for McDonald's and their advertising department will be in the room for the callback, and they'll be watching you in the callback. And a lot of times you're going in, you're doing the same thing for the callback, but sometimes they'll give you some direction in the callback and ask you to, let's try it this way, let's try it a different way. And that's what you might expect when you're going in for a callback. But most of the time, again, callbacks are going to be in person. Lately, because of the pandemic, some callbacks have been done via Zoom, but I do expect when things get back to normal, callbacks at least will still be in person. All right, I'm looking at my stats right now. There's 62 people watching live. Fantastic. Okay, let's see. How long does it take to get started from the very beginning when you only dreamed of acting to where you are right now? It's a really different story for me, honestly, because I honestly never dreamed of acting. When I was growing up, I never acted in school plays. I didn't do anything in high school. So for those of you that are starting early on, if you're a lot younger, I didn't start till I was 26 years old. I didn't even think about acting until I was 26 years old. So if you're younger than that, then you're in a great position, because you look at the success that I've had, for someone who didn't start until 26, if you're much younger than that and you're getting started now, you're starting way before I did, and that's fantastic, okay? So I started taking acting classes in 2008, and I'm continuing to take acting classes to this day, and that's not something that you ever stop doing, because we can always learn something new in this profession. But I started taking acting classes in 2008. I started working on some local projects, again, like making my own movies with my friends, doing student films, doing short films and things like that for a while. I didn't get my first movie role until 2011, I think 3 years after I started taking classes. I got my first movie role in a movie that was shooting in Pittsburgh when I was still living in Cleveland, and I got my first television show role in 2016. So that's 8 years after I started taking classes. And then after I moved down here to Atlanta, I started really getting a lot more opportunities in film and television, because Atlanta is a huge film and television market here in the United States. So that's another big thing, is that if you are in a small market, at some point in your career, you probably will have to move to a bigger production market in order to get those opportunities. That's why I ended up moving down here back in 2016. Okay, let's see. Do you have any updated tips for remembering monologues and scripts? So I think, again, that's something also that everybody has their own different methods of memorizing lines and memorizing a script. For me, I try a few different methods, and I actually have, if you look on my YouTube channel, I have a video, I think it's 7 different ways to memorize lines, and I don't use every single one, but those are different ones that I've heard in the past. So I actually recommend you watch that video, because it will take me too long to go through all of those right now, but those scripts or those memorization techniques are still ones that I use to this day. Honestly, the best thing for me is actually to rehearse with another person. So if I can get someone else to read the other lines opposite me, I'm talking about a scene, right? When I have a scene partner, if I can get somebody else to read the opposite lines with me, then that really helps me, because hearing the other lines coming from another person and actually making it a conversation rather than just thinking about it as lines, and really making this a conversation between two people, really puts me into the scene, really makes that scene more believable to me, really makes me feel like I'm believing that I am affecting this other person and they're affecting me. And that really helps me memorize more than anything else, honestly. Okay, let's go. Let's see. All right, I'm scrolling through where everybody is saying where they're from, which is very cool. Let's see. All right. Oh man, a lot of questions coming up. Okay, so I'll try to get to as many of these as I can. I'm a 15-year-old from South Africa here. Welcome from South Africa. I'm a rugby player. I love acting too, so I wanted to know if it's possible for me to balance both careers if I go professional. Honestly, I don't know anything about rugby, and I don't know how that, what your time commitments are and constraints are. It's acting is something where if you pursue this career, it's very difficult in the first few years to really make a good amount of money and make a living doing this. Not even just in the first few years. For it can take a very, very long time, many years, potentially decades, to get to a point where you're making a living with it. So most people will have some sort of secondary income. Now that's going to be up to you in what you can fit into your schedule. I know some people that are able to make other careers work while also pursuing acting. So potentially rugby is something that you can do as well. But it's really dependent on your particular situation. And I have no idea what the rugby lifestyle is like and what it's like to be a professional rugby player and how much time that takes away. But honestly, if you pursue acting, it does take a lot of commitment, a lot of effort, a lot of your time. So it might just come down to how much time can you put into both careers. All right. Now that we're talking about different nations and states, how can a foreigner act in the USA? So I think I've answered this question quite a few times in the YouTube comments from a lot of my videos, and because I know there are a lot of people. Hollywood is one of the big. Somebody's calling me on my phone right now, and it's a spam caller. I'm getting so many spam calls. So a lot of people here in outside of the United States want to act in Hollywood movies because it's the most well-known film industry right here in America. The difficulty, there's a couple really hard things to overcome for people in other countries. The first thing is you have to be either a United States citizen or a permanent resident, meaning a green card holder, or you have to have a permit to work in the United States. You have to have a work visa to work in the United States. Otherwise, you cannot be an actor in a movie because this is work. This is a job. You're getting paid for it. And this is not just acting, it's any industry. In order to be someone who gets paid for work in the United States in any industry, you have to have a work visa. If you live in another country, you have to have a works visa. So that's the first thing that you have to do. Otherwise, no agent is going to represent you. No casting director is going to give you an audition if you don't have a permit to work in the United States. Because if you audition and they say, hey, we love this actor or actress, but they don't have a work visa, they can't hire you. It's illegal for them to hire you if you don't have a work visa. So depending on what country you are, you'll have to research that on your own because I don't know really anything about how the immigration status works and how work visas work because I live in the United States. So you'll have to research that and see how you can get those permits and visas in order to have the ability to work. The one thing that I can tell you, the one particular work visa to research in the United States is called the O1 visa, the letter O and the number 1. The O1 visa, I'll type it down here in the comments. O1 visa. If you research that, I believe that's the visa that most performers, meaning actors and musicians and things like that, most performers get to be able to work here in the United States. So do your research on that. All right. Thanks so much for doing live. My question is, where should you begin again if you haven't acted in 5 years? That's cool that you're getting back into it after a 5-year hiatus. I think a great place to start is getting back into classes because you got to get your feet back into it. You got to get your feet wet and kind of get that ball rolling again and just start performing scenes in class so that you can dust some of that get some of that dust off and that rust off, so that you can start performing again. I think, like I said earlier, there's just so many great benefits to being in class other than actually performing, but also you're going to be involved in the community again, and in the industry again. You'll start making more industry contacts and getting people that can potentially help you in your career, getting advice on headshot photographers, on talent agencies and things like that. So try to get involved in that way. And if you live in a small market that doesn't have a lot of acting classes available that are live, then just start researching some online classes that are available. I think that's, like I said earlier, that's a great thing that's happening right now, is that so many classes are online and are available to actors all over the world. Are auditions happening again? Yes, I'm happy to say that I just got my first couple film and television auditions last week. Since March, I didn't get any more. What is that? March, April, May, June, July, August. For 6 months, I didn't get any film or television auditions. And I'm a person, when I'm relatively busy, I'm used to getting 2 or 3 film and television productions or auditions a week. And I didn't get any for 6 months, so everything just completely shut down. But at least here in Atlanta, we're starting to see things pick back up again. And I know commercial auditions have been picking back up in the past month or two. So everything looks like it's slowly ramping back up again. Let's see. How do you do a video reel? Well, we just answered the demo reel question earlier. If you missed it, I'll put this video on my YouTube channel so that you can rewatch it in the future. So if you're joining late and you missed some of the questions that I answered earlier, you can go back and rewatch it later on. Okay, how do I balance business and acting? It's difficult, because that's something that every single actor honestly has to deal with, because it's really hard to pursue acting by itself, because when you're starting out, it's not going to provide the type of income for you to survive off of. So you really have to either have a separate business or have a separate job or something like that to kind of keep you afloat. And everybody kind of deals with that. It really depends on what your business is and what your side job is, or multiple side jobs that you have. I think some people are really able to make it work because they have flexible jobs. I know one friend of mine, she's a realtor. I have actually multiple actor friends who are realtors, and they're able to make that work really well because it's flexible and they can schedule what they need to do to meet with their clients around their auditions and their acting career. And it's not just that. It's not just real estate. There are plenty of other potential side jobs that you can do that are flexible. For me, I do photography on the side, and I do a lot of actor headshots. So for my photography business, I can make my own hours, and I can make my own schedule. So I can schedule everything around my acting career, and it's flexible in that respect. So it really depends on what you're doing and what business that you are in. And if it's something that you find it hard to be able to balance the two, then maybe spend some time researching other potential areas that you can make money that will be more be something that can work well with your acting career, more so than what you're doing currently. All right, let's see. How do I get to be a dancer in a commercial, like for brands and things like that? So whenever there's a commercial that is looking specifically for people that have a skill, like dancing or singing, or someone who can play the piano, or someone that can do karate or something like that, because we've all seen commercials like that, right? Where someone is doing those things. A lot of times they'll do a casting call for someone with those special skills, and sometimes for those particular auditions, they won't go to an agency, because they're not looking for actors necessarily then. They're looking for people that have professional skills in other areas. So in those instances, those casting directors will put out an open casting call, which doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes when they're looking for people with specific skills, the casting directors will put out an open casting call, and anybody can audition for it. Anybody can submit for it. So that's why I recommend people follow casting directors on social media. Follow casting directors on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever you can find them, and agents as well, because sometimes you'll see them, even if you're not represented by that agent, they'll post an open casting call, and they'll say, hey, even if you're not represented by us, we're looking for people right now who have potentially a dancing skill for a commercial. So that's how you can find those. Or you have, if you have representation from your agent, you got to make sure you let them know that you have this skill, so that they, whenever they come across an audition, whether it's for a commercial or a television show or something like that, that requires that skill, then they will submit you for it. So that's something that you have to have that conversation with your agent, so that they know that. All right, let's see. Can you live as an actor because many people told you are going to be poor? That's a great question. And look, to be honest, it's very difficult to be making a lot of money here as an actor. You know, we look at all these big movie stars, and they're making millions of dollars, and they're living lavish lifestyles. But that's like the 1%, even the 0.1% of actors that actually make a ton of money. The vast majority of actors are not making a living acting. So for me, I've been doing this for about 12 years now, and if you look at my IMDb, I have a lot of film and television credits, but there are certain years, not just 2020. 2020 is just different for everybody, right? 2020 is the pandemic's happened and nobody's making any money. But even in past years, when you look at some of my my credits in those years, I've worked on a bunch of movies and television shows, but by no means am I rich from it. I still need to have that secondary income for me to still kind of live comfortably. There are some years where I'll have a good year, and then in those years, I'll be making enough money that year where I can pay all my bills, and I didn't need that secondary income. But then on another year, it's not a good year. I didn't make as much, and that secondary income does come in really handy. So that's something that you really have to be. You have to have those expectations managed when you are starting out as an acting career. There's no such thing as kind of an overnight success. An overnight success, honestly, in an acting career is like maybe 3 to 5 years, and that's like winning the lottery, honestly. If you are making a living acting in 3 to 5 years, you won the lottery. It usually takes 10 years or more to get to a point where you're really making enough money to be able to pay all your bills and not to have a secondary job. And even then, you're going to have down years. So you really have to know how to manage your money well. You can have an actor where they have a really good year and they make $100,000 a year, and it's amazing. But then the next year, they don't book as much, and they make like a third of that or a quarter of that. So just because you do really well in one year, that's not necessarily going to happen year after year after year. So that's something that a lot of actors have to manage is learn how to manage their money, so they're not they can really just be able to make whatever they're earning from acting work alongside whatever side incomes they have. And like I said before, the vast majority of actors have a secondary income or 2 or 3 separate incomes to kind of help support them while they're pursuing their acting career. How do I make a reel with no experience? So you gain experience. I mean, that's just the same thing with anything else. You have to eventually gain experience. So like I said earlier, you got to create short films with your friends, like the one that I showed on my screen earlier. And that's going to be your demo reel. It's not going to look super professional when you're first starting out, but that's what's going to help you get your next job and help you potentially land that agent. And then that agent will help you hopefully land that next bigger role and get you a better footage to add to your demo reel, right? So everybody starts with nothing, and you just have to kind of build your way up into your career in that way. All right. Are planning acting classes specifically for teens? Okay, so if you have a daughter that's a teenager and they want to work on major projects, theater, Netflix shows, things like that, there are, depending on where you are in the country, like I here in Atlanta, I know of multiple teen acting classes where the teacher and the class itself is specifically focused for teenagers. In bigger markets, I'm sure you'll be able to find classes like that. And honestly, right now, you'll probably be able to find that in online classes as well. So you can definitely get started as a teenager. I mean, if you watch television, there are younger actors in all kinds of movies and television shows. So definitely start off with classes and then talk to those teachers. If they're respectable teachers and they know the industry and they've been in the industry for a while, they can definitely make recommendations for wherever you are in the country or in the world and in your city, and what casting directors you should be looking and reaching out to and trying to make connections with, and what agencies are probably best in the area that represent teenagers. So yeah, there are definitely opportunities available. Okay. If I have already taken a headshot and I've changed my hairstyle, should I take a new picture? That's a great question. Yes, you would need to change. You would need to have a new picture, because the one thing that really annoys casting directors and agents is that when you go into an audition, is that the person doesn't look like their headshot. So it's and I know this is different especially for women, because a lot of women, if you have longer hair, you can style your hair in 50 different ways. So the question is, how do you what headshot should you take? Headshots with like a ton of different hairstyles. You don't necessarily have to do every single hairstyle, but you want to have a little variety of in hairstyles, and especially and this is different. I'm talking about like if you're tying your hair back or leaving your hair down, that's not a huge deal and you don't have to take a new headshot. But if you've like changed your hair color, if you've dyed it, or if you cut it short or left it long, like if your hair is short and then you let it grow for a long time, you're going to need a new headshot. Or if your headshot is super long and if you've really cut it short, then you're going to need a new headshot. Like if I decide to shave my head tomorrow, I'm going to need a new headshot. I can't give them this headshot and then they call me in for an audition, I walk in with a shaved head. It's a totally different person, right? So you have to be able to show them who they're going to expect when they walk into the room. All right. As a theater actor, we're trying to get into more film and TV. Do you think there's a different aesthetic in the headshots between the two? I'm also trying to get into shape before the new year when I get into my shots. So I'm not too familiar with the theater world, honestly, Russell. So I haven't done a ton of theater in my life. That's not to say that's not good. It's really important, I think, for people to do theater. It's a great training ground, and if stage acting is something that you really love, then you absolutely should do it. That's just not. I didn't kind of get into the industry doing theater. That's not the way that I broke into the industry, but a lot of people do. So I can't really speak to that because I don't know how theater headshots are being used. I just know that in film and TV, they like to see a variety. They like to see a variety in the different types of characters that you can play. So, for instance, for me, I'll definitely. My main type that I play is a business professional. So my main headshot is me in a suit and tie. But then I have a more casual look. I actually have a headshot in this shirt that I'm wearing right now, which is a much more casual headshot. That's a kind of more of a blue collar type of headshot. And then I have one that's kind of in a nice sweater where it just makes me look like a dad that's home with his kids. That's something that I would use like in a commercial, or like a polo shirt would also be a good option for that. So headshots for film and TV, they do like to see different options of the different types of characters that you can play and that they can see you in. What microphone am I using now? This is like a $30 microphone. Honestly, it's nothing that great. It's made by Toner. I got it off Amazon, and it's maybe $30-40. I wasn't looking for anything super fancy. I just needed something that was better than the internal microphone on my laptop. But if it sounds good to you, then look it up. Look it up on Amazon. Maybe it's a good option. Is making a reel out of monologues and self-tape scenes okay way to start your reel when you don't have much on-camera experience? I've seen people do that. I think it's okay. Now, one thing that I want to warn you is that if you use self-tape scenes, make sure that it's not a scene that you audition for from a TV show or a movie that hasn't been released yet, okay? Because then you can get into trouble if you're posting something online publicly from a scene from a movie that isn't out in theaters yet, or from a TV show that hasn't been on TV or streaming on Netflix yet, and it's something you've recently auditioned for. You cannot put that publicly, or you can get into a lot of trouble. So that's the big warning for that if you're going to do something like that. But you can do that for your reels to use monologues or self-tape scenes. But I would just say, why not go get together with the students in your acting class and make a short film on a weekend, and then write something with your friends and cut that together and take the scenes from that and add it to each of your reels. I mean, that's something that I've done in the past. And it's something you're going to have a lot of fun doing it. You're going to learn a lot by making a short film. You're going to learn a lot about the filmmaking process, which is really important to know as an actor as well. So yeah, that's something that I would recommend. You can start off with your monologue and your self-tape scenes, but aim to start making your own content and auditioning for student films and short films, and use those as well. All right. Should you have a manager or an agent? It really that's a tough question to answer. It depends on where you are in your career. If you are just starting, if you haven't done anything, if you've never taken an acting class ever, then you wouldn't get a manager or an agent yet. You got to start with classes, start building up your actual skill level in acting, and then at one point you're going to have the skills to be ready to have an agent. And I would say in most markets, you would not need a manager. Managers are usually in the big markets like New York or LA, because there's such a big market, and the agents are overwhelmed, and because their rosters are so huge. Agents represent like 400 or 500 or more actors, and managers tend to have a much smaller roster, so they can give you more personalized attention. Here in Atlanta, I have an agent, but I don't have a manager, and the vast majority of actors here in Atlanta don't have a manager. But in LA, it's more common to have a manager, because you do have to have have both helping you out in your career. But just understand that if your agent's taking 10% and your manager's taking 10%, that's more money kind of going away if you book something. But yeah, it really depends on your situation and where you are in your career, and when you want to pursue an agent or a manager. What's the expected time commitment when working? Is it possible to balance acting and family with small kids? It really depends on how heavily you want to pursue this. It's possible that, if at some point, if you book a role, for instance, on a television show, you just don't know. You don't know what the hours are going to be like. You don't know when your call time is going to be. It's a lot of this it's tough to plan for, because you can't tell them what your schedule is. I mean, you can tell them what your schedule is, but they won't work around it. They're going to say, okay, well, if you can't do our times, we'll just hire a different actor. Unless you have the clout of a big movie star, they're just going to hire a different actor if you can't work on those terms. There are days where I am on set for 10, 12 hours, 14-hour days. Sometimes. It doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it happens. And you do have to manage that and expect that at times. Sometimes you have overnight shoots. I worked on a movie a year ago, I think. A year ago, I worked on a Netflix movie that is yet to be released, and we had a week of overnight shoots. I only had to be there 2 days, luckily, but they had a week of overnight shoots. So all of our shoots started, our call time on set was 6 p.m., and then we didn't get wrapped until 5 a.m. So that's something you have to think about. Like, are you able to do that if needed, and still kind of manage having kids to take care of? I know it's difficult. It's really hard, especially when you're starting out. You don't have a lot of pull to say, I can do this day, I can do this day, but not that day. You can give them your schedule, but they won't necessarily work around it if it doesn't work for them. Uh, should we have our own stunt double? The production will provide, if it's a big movie or television show, production will provide a stunt double if there are stunts involved. And this is it, so I'm speaking specifically for movies in the United States that are union projects that are represented by SAG-AFTRA, because there are rules involved, and they can't force actors to perform certain stunts if they aren't necessarily trained for it, so they hire stunt performers to do that. Okay, so usually productions will provide a stunt double to do that. You don't have to walk around with your own twin to make them perform your stunts for you. All right. If you're 13 years old, how do you land a joke, crush the audition, and are perfect for the role? Do you think networks like Disney and Nick would say no to you because of lack of experience on your resume? I mean, if you're younger, nobody's expecting people to have, you can't have 20 years of experience when you're 13 years old. That's just not possible, right? So they'll overlook lack of experience when you're 13. The one thing they won't overlook is lack of training. If you walk into an audition and you clearly don't know what you're doing, and you can't break down a scene that they want you to be able to do, and you've clearly not learned how to do that in acting class, then they're not going to consider you for the role, right? So you do have to be able to be well trained. So 13 is a great age to be taking acting classes. If your school, middle school, high school, whatever grade that you're in now, if your school offers a drama club or school plays or something like that, just start with that and start getting into acting that way. And potentially, if you can also do more, you can also take acting classes in studios that are outside of your school. So maybe after school acting classes at an acting studio. I know my acting teacher in Ohio, when I was first getting started, she offered after school classes for teen actors. And those students got started early. And it's great when you're able to start early and learn those skills so that when you walk into an audition, you look like a professional. You look like you know what you're doing, even though you don't have credits on your resume, but you do have the training. And when you walk in, it's clear, it's obvious to casting directors and to agents when an actor walks in and they have the training and they know what they're doing. All right. If you know RADA, yes, I know RADA, Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London. Yeah. Do you think it would be good for a girl of a village in Austria to try to get into the school? That's really up to you, and it's a really personal decision. It's a tough. There's so many ways to start this career. You can definitely go to a conservatory training. You can definitely go to a school like RADA. You can definitely go to in the U.S., you can go to a place like Juilliard. You can go to the Yale School of Drama. You can do that. You can get a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in acting. That is a way to do it. There's also a way where you take acting classes in a studio, just take smaller acting classes in a studio on the side and not necessarily get a degree. Here's the thing, at least in film and television, I don't really know about the theater world because I'm not really connected in that world. But in the film and television world, nobody cares about your degree. They care if you have training and you're able to act. So however you get that training is important, but you have to get the training. So if you want to pursue training at a school in London, great, pursue that training. If you want to pursue training a different way, then do it that way. But it is important to train, but the way that you train is not really super important as long as you're getting good training and becoming a good actor in whatever way that you can. Let's see. How do you make friends? I have social anxiety. Oh, okay. So I feel like acting class is a thing that helps a lot of people with social anxiety. I know a lot of people, honestly, when I was taking acting classes in Ohio, some people were in class not because they wanted to learn acting. they really didn't care about becoming an actor, but they wanted to just, kind of get out of their shell and be able to overcome their social anxiety, and the acting class really helped with that. But here's one thing that I'll say: it depends on the class, because when I was in Cleveland, we were so fortunate to have a really great teacher and a really great class that was very welcoming to everyone. And everybody was supportive of one another, and everybody got along. And so find a class like that. I mentioned earlier that a lot of acting classes will allow you to audit and sit in on a class for free. So take advantage of that and sit in on a class and see if that environment is really welcoming and is really supportive of each other, and it's not a teacher that just yells at you all the time, because there are teachers like that, and I don't agree with that type of teaching. And they're the teachers that are really supportive, and that are there to help you learn and make the classroom environment a safe space to really take risks without getting yelled at. That's the type of acting class that I think is beneficial to both your career, to learn acting, and also to potentially overcome that social anxiety. All right. What if my reel has scenes, but they're in a different language because I'm in Tunisia? We don't speak English. Well, I mean, if you're pursuing acting in your country, and you are and your reel is only in your language, then that's fine. But if you're trying to pursue it in a country of a different language, then you will have to. I mean, there's really no way around that. You really will have to be able to learn to speak the language of the movie, not necessarily the language of the country that you're in. You may make a movie. There might be a movie made here in the United States where they speak a different language. They may need to find an actor that speaks your language, but that's just not gonna happen as often. In the United States, 99.9% of the roles are gonna be actors that speak English, right? But there are shows where they will need actors to speak another language, and I've been asked to do that before. I've been asked to speak Mandarin because I have a Mandarin background, so I can speak that in a role if they need it, but they don't need it very often. The vast majority of the things I audition for, I have to speak English. So if you're trying to pursue acting in a different country that speaks another language, you'll just have to. There's really no way around that. You have to learn that language. Does casting give you information about the role? So yes, if they give you an audition, they'll give you the audition sides, which are the scene, which is the scene that they want you to perform, and usually they'll give you a character breakdown, which is, there's not going to be a lot of information there most of the time, but it'll say the name and age and ethnicity of the character and what they're going through in the scene, maybe what their relationships are with the other characters. You'll have a little bit of information, but you will also want to do some research on your own, if you can find more research about that character, and that's where those are the things that you learn in like a script analysis class, breaking down the script and finding out more about your character, about the story, about those relationships, how they affect each other, what you're trying to get in that scene. That's more the homework that you have to do as an actor to bring that scene to life. Any tips for 11-year-old actors? Same for everybody else. Get into acting class, or if you are in your school, if they have drama club, get into that. Start with that, and go and move forward from there. Let's see. I live in India. I love acting. I want to act in a web series. I don't know how to audition for a role online. If I get selected, will they pay my travel expenses? If you're talking about acting in something in the United States, I answered this question already. You're not going to be able to get a role in the United States because it's illegal for them to hire someone from outside of the country unless they have a proper work visa. So you have to have a work visa before you can do that. So look into that. I've put into the comments, it's an O1 visa that actors and performers tend to get. But it's not an easy process to go through, so just to warn you now, but it's something that you'll want to research if that's something that you want to do, is audition for something in the United States. Otherwise, I don't think there's any reason why you shouldn't be pursuing acting in your own country first. You got to be able to do what you can in your city, in your country, before you try to venture outside to a different market. I mean, that's exactly what I did. Obviously, I started in the United States, but I started in Ohio, which was a place with no film or television work. But I started with just local little independent projects and short films, student films, things like that, until I really wanted to move forward in my career and go to the next level. And that's when I moved down to Atlanta. Okay. If you have zero experience, but you are an amazing actor, do you think having no experience could affect if you book it or not? How do you know you're an amazing actor if you have no experience? Have you been to acting class? Because, if mom and dad tell you you're an amazing actor, or your friends tell you you're an amazing actor, that's very different from a casting director saying it. And that's very different from a teacher saying it. So make sure you go to class and keep building your skills as an actor. Leonardo DiCaprio, Oscar winner, still goes to an acting coach. So if an Oscar winner still goes to a coach, there's no reason why any one of us should not be continuing to take acting classes. I don't care how amazing you think you are or other people say you are currently not an Oscar winner. So go to acting class. Keep learning. So this is something that I really is super important to me, is that, if you are an actor, if you want to be an actor, I think you should ask yourself this: do you really like acting, or do you like the idea of being famous and rich? If you really like acting, then you should be dying to go to acting class. You should love to go to acting class. That should be the first thing that you want to do, because you want to get into class and be performing scenes, whether it's in front of an audience or not. As an actor, I love going to class and performing a scene and going and working with my scene partners, even though there's nobody watching. This is something that we love to do. This is like when you think about like a painter. Does a painter only enjoy the paintings that they sell to people at an art gallery? No, they're in their homes painting because they enjoy painting. Whether someone buys their painting or not, they still paint. So actors, we should, if you really love acting, then you should be, trying to get into every acting class that you can. But some people only love the idea of being rich and famous on a television set, and they think that's so cool, but they don't really love acting, and they don't want to pursue it, and they don't want to put the work in. And if you don't put the work in, then you're not going to be successful. It's just not going to happen, because there's so many people trying to pursue this and that are putting the work in and are getting ahead of you every single day that they are in class, and you are not. Do you have any tips for getting cast with almost no experience? I've already answered this question a few times, so just rewatch this video when it plays back, or watch any of my YouTube videos that talk about how to get started in acting with no experience. Let's see. They still had those phones in the 2000s. Yes, they did. You're talking about the video that I showed. Can you get an agent in Atlanta if you live in LA? You can, and it's just like a lot of people here in Atlanta want to try to get an agent in LA when they live in Atlanta. It's not as easy, obviously, because you live outside of the market, but you can potentially. It will be easier if you have some significant credits in film and television that you can say, hey, look, I'm a working actor. I've been in this movie and this TV show and this movie and this TV show. Then you can get an agent. But if you don't have those credits, and you're just like any other actor who wants an agent in Atlanta, that's going to be much, much more difficult. So when I was trying to get an agent in Atlanta and I lived in Ohio, I met with some agents, and they said they would sign me if I moved to Atlanta, but they would not represent me if I just stayed in Ohio. and that was so that's it. But I do know a couple actors in LA. One's a good friend of mine. He lives in LA and he has an agent here in Atlanta, and he's getting auditions that he can self-tape, and if he books something, he'll fly to Atlanta and work on the project, and that's happened before to him. But before he got his agent here in Atlanta, he had some significant movie and television credits that helped him get that agent. Otherwise, if you want to really pursue a career here in Atlanta, just like I tell everybody else, you really got to consider moving here, because you're going to have a much easier chance, a much easier time pursuing that career in this market if you live locally. And that goes for anything. That goes for anywhere. I can try to get an agent in LA, but it'll be much harder than if I lived there. Should I move to Atlanta if I'm a kid? That's really, you got to ask your parents about that, or your guardians, or whoever is helping you. I don't think as a kid you can move here by yourself. Can I both be a producer and an actor and balance my career? Yeah. You see a lot of actors do that. A lot of actors in Hollywood are producers on their own projects. So that happens all the time. Could you make a video with UK actors talking about differences between US industry and UK industry? That's a great question, and I actually I'm looking at a couple YouTubers that are UK actors, and I might try to reach out to them and try to do a joint YouTube video to talk about some of those differences. I'm also trying to see if I can find someone in Canada and some other countries to do that, because I think that'll be fun. And that'll be interesting for me too, because I would love to learn about the industry in other countries. Do you still audition for indie films? Absolutely. Yeah. And like this is why I say that, when you're an actor, you love to act. You don't care if it's whatever it's for. You just want to be part of that process. So I just did an indie film 2 days ago where I had one line in a short film, but it was people here in the Atlanta community. I wasn't paid a lot of money to do this, and I got up at 5 in the morning. I drove an hour out into the woods to do this, but it's something that you really enjoy doing, and it's a little indie short film. It's probably not going to be seen by a ton of people, but this is what we love to do, and we want to do this whether it's for a huge worldwide audience or whether it's for just something that we're doing and having fun with our friends. We love to do it. You'll see this with big Hollywood celebrities too. There are so many Hollywood celebrity Oscar-winning actors that go and do theater, that go and do shows on Broadway, even though you're not going to have as wide of an audience when you're doing theater, even though they're being paid much, much less to do a theater show than to do a big blockbuster movie, but they just love to act, and they want to do that. Even though it's for a smaller audience and they're being paid less, they enjoy doing it. And they're not doing it just for the fame and the money, even though that's part of what they got them to their to where they are at that point. But you talk to any of them, they love being on stage, right? Is it safe to hire an agent online? I'm not 100% sure what you mean by hiring an agent online. Everybody is online. Everybody has a website. What you really want to do your research when you get an agent, though. Don't just sign with the first agent that offers you representation. Make sure if someone offers you representation, tell them, okay, let me think it over, and then ask around and see if there are other people that you know that are represented by them, or if people have heard of that agency, because there are a lot of scammers out there. Agents, casting directors, all kinds of acting teachers, coaches. There are scammers out there who are just trying to take your money and are not trying to help you in your career at all. So make sure you do your research. If an agent is trying to charge you money up front to represent you, that's a scam. That's not a real agency. If an agent says, hey, we won't represent you until you pay us $500, that's a scam. Agents make money off of commission. So if you book a job that they help you get, and that job pays $500, they make a 10 or 20% commission, depending if it's a union job or a non-union job. They take a percentage of your paycheck. They don't ask for money up front. You don't give an agent money to represent you, okay? So to answer your question, it's fine if the agent is online. That's not a big deal. But the big deal is make sure they're reputable and that you've done your research and you know that they are a legitimate agency and not a scammer. I'm 25. I haven't started yet. Am I late? I did not start until I was 26. So you're a year ahead of me. And I know people that didn't start until they were 30 or 40, 50. I know people that didn't start until they retired. A friend of mine didn't retire or didn't start acting until he was over 60, and he's having a great career right now. So there's no right or wrong time to start an acting career. You can start at any point and be successful. What are some of the acting resources that you can use for acting classes? I'm not 100% sure what types of resources you're looking for. If you're looking for some scripts to practice with, there's a website called, actually I have a page on my website, actingcareercenter.com. That's let me see if I can pull that up right now. So there's a resource list that I'll pop up into the chat window. Let me see, I lost my chat window. There we go. All right. So I'm putting a link to a resource list on my website. And if you scroll down on that resource list, you'll see there's, at the very bottom, there's a link to a website called Internet Movie Script Database, IMSDB. And it's just a bunch of free movie scripts that you can download and practice those scenes for in your acting class or on your own or however you want to practice. So, and there are plenty of other resources on that page for actors. There's another YouTube channel that I highly recommend called the SAG-AFTRA Foundation YouTube channel. So subscribe to that channel if you haven't. Subscribe to my channel first, but then also subscribe to the SAG Foundation YouTube channel. All right, cool. Let's see. Let's get back to the questions here. Do casting directors want tall people? So yeah, casting directors want all kinds of people. They want tall people, short people, old, young, different ages, ethnicities, all kinds of stuff. So there's no extra benefit to being tall for a casting director or short or anything. Let's see. Let's say you're interested in a certain agency, you don't get selected. How long should you wait to submit again? A lot of times they'll tell you in the on the agency website. They'll say, you know, if you submitted and you weren't a great fit at the time, then you can wait whatever they say, 6 months, a year. You know, you can follow their directions to submit again after that amount of time, and make sure that in that time frame you are. And if they don't say on their website, then just, you know, do it in 6 months. But in that time frame that you haven't submitted to them, you should be continuing to train, doing more training on your own, trying to submit yourself for student films and short films and indie projects where you can build a demo reel so that the next time you submit, you have more to show them, so that you're not just submitting the same thing that you submitted 6 months ago, right? So you could show them, hey, I've done these 2 classes since I last submitted, and I also worked on this student film and this other thing, right? And here's my new demo reel that I didn't have 6 months ago, right? So that's the better way to submit rather than just to wait 6 months and submit the same thing. Let's see. So question is, once I have enough money, what should I do? What's the first step to take to begin my career? If you haven't taken acting classes, that's the first step. And that's honestly, that's the first step for everybody, because it opens up so many doors to be in class. It's not, again, like I said earlier, it's not just about learning how to act, which is obviously the most important thing, but building those connections, because the people in your class are going to be able to offer you so many potential opportunities that I can't offer you because I don't know you. I'm not in your city. I'm not in your state or your country or wherever you are. But the people that are local in your city can tell you, hey, this is the best headshot photographer in the city. This is the best. These are the casting directors you should look out for and you should build relationships for. And this is how you get into the industry in our city. And then when you move to a new city, you take acting classes there and you build your relationships there and build your community there. That's what I did when I came down to Atlanta. So when I was living in Cleveland, from 2008 to 2016, I lived in Cleveland and I was building my career there. I was taking acting classes for 8 years already at that point. When I came down to Atlanta, I could have walked into Atlanta saying, you know what? I'm an actor who has been taking acting classes already for 8 years. I'm in this new city, but I don't need to take more classes. I've already done it for 8 years. I didn't do that. The first thing I did when I came to Atlanta was I got into another acting class, a new acting class here in Atlanta, and it opened so many doors for me. I've worked on multiple projects off of recommendations from my teachers or my other students in class. Having that network and having that community is so beneficial, and I think it's just as important as anything else in this career. So make sure that that's the first thing that you do is take those acting classes and then build outwards from that. Oh no, I lost my spot. Lost my spot. Oh no. All right, hold on. Sorry about this. Let me oh, there we go. All right, I found somebody. Okay. I'm skipping some questions right now, guys, because they've already been asked. So if I don't read your question, just rewatch this video from the beginning when we're done, because I've answered a lot of these already. They're just repeat questions. Who are you studying with, and who are the acting coaches that casting really likes to see on a resume? That's not necessarily something that I think is really important to casting directors, to see a particular coach. They just want to see that the first thing that they'll see is that you have trained in some way, shape, or form. And then if they bring you in for an audition, and if you look like you know what you're doing, then that's the most important thing. But the people that I studied with were I'll put the links in the comments here. And both these places offer online classes right now. So the first one is the Hood School of Acting in Cleveland, Ohio, which is my first acting class, and she is offering online classes right now. I owe so much of my success to Jessica Hood and the Hood School of Acting. So that's this first link that I'm putting in right now. And the second link that I'm adding is Drama Inc., which are the classes I'm taking here in Atlanta. They also are offering online classes right now. And I will post that in the comments right now as well. So those are the two that I recommend. There are so many great acting teachers out there, guys. So these are just two examples of classes that I've taken, but there are so many others as well. So research whatever you can find, and then also get recommendations from other acting students that can vouch for those teachers. And like I said, sit in on an open class, on a free class to audit if you can, if they offer that, and then go from there. Do you prefer the method, or do you use other techniques for acting? So my main acting technique that I studied was the Meisner technique. You can research that on your own. I actually did an interview on my YouTube channel with my acting teacher, Jessica Hood in Ohio, who teaches the Meisner technique. So you can watch that YouTube video, that interview, to learn a little bit more about the Meisner technique. But there are many, many acting techniques, honestly. Meisner has worked for me. It's worked for a lot of other people, but many other techniques work for other actors. So I'm not going to tell you that you have to study one specific one. Don't listen to anybody that says that there is one acting technique that's the best. There is no best. This is an art. This is something that certain things are going to work better for some people than others. So you're going to find the technique that's going to work best for you. That's not necessarily going to be the technique that works best for me. Okay, so it takes some time to kind of figure out what's going to work for you. Can you get any Netflix jobs if you're in Canada and as a kid? As a kid, it's not really a big issue that there are kids in all kinds of movies and shows. So, of course, you can be in a movie or a show as a kid. There are certain Netflix projects that are being made in Canada. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there are some being shot in Toronto and Vancouver, I'm pretty sure. So it has to be something that is being made in your country. So it's possible. I just don't know off the top of my head which movies or shows are being shot in Canada right now for Netflix. Which college did you go to? I went to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. Go Blue. But I did not study acting in college. So, like I said earlier, there are many ways to get into acting. There are many ways to train in acting. I went to college for computer science, and I was a software developer for a long time before I became an actor. And I did my acting training. I took acting classes outside of school. It was after I graduated college, because like I said, I didn't get into acting till I was 26. So I started taking acting classes at a studio at the Hood School of Acting in Ohio, and many people start their acting careers that way. They didn't start by taking classes in college. Some people do, some people don't. So that it's something. It's not necessarily one way to do this. Everybody has a different kind of career path in this industry. All right, a lot of these questions are repeats, so let's see. Is it necessary to put non-acting degree education background on an acting resume? No, not really. It's not. They don't really need to see that. If you have it, I think it's fine to put it on there. I don't think there's actually a negative, but I don't think it really adds anything whether you do or not. I'm just now trying to begin my acting career. Are classes, getting a headshot, and getting help with my resume done for free, or is there a charge? Classes are definitely not free. Classes are going to range depending on your market, depending on where you are. At least here in the United States, classes are going to range between $100 to $300 to $400, maybe $100 to $400 a month for weekly classes. Headshots are going to cost anywhere between, I guess, $200 to $500. I know people that have paid over $1,000 for headshots. I mean, this is a serious business. It's a business. Remember that it's show business, right? It's not just show. So, the business side of it does cost money. You have to invest money into your career. So classes do cost money. Getting headshots do cost money. There's a video on my YouTube channel called the cost of becoming an actor. So look for that video where I break down how much it really costs to kind of start your acting career, how much you can expect to pay for headshots and classes and all of that type of stuff. All right, let's see. Shahid, what's up, man? I don't know how long ago you typed this comment, but I'm glad to see you on here. How do you get auditions? I'll look up my YouTube videos on how to get auditions. I have multiple videos on that. I don't want to get into too much of it here, but you can find them on your own, whether you use websites like Actors Access or Backstage, or just use Facebook groups of your city to try to find auditions that way. If you don't have an agent, if you have an agent, your agent can help you find auditions. But there are many ways to kind of get to whatever point that you're trying to get to in getting auditions. So look up those YouTube videos that I have on how to get auditions, whether with an agent, and then also some of my videos on how to get an agent, because an agent will be able to get you auditions that you definitely can't get on your own. I applied to be an extra for Stranger Things about 2 weeks ago. How long do you think it'll take for them to get back? So this is something that you'll have to get used to in the industry. You will only hear back if they want you, if they want to use you. If they aren't going to use you, you won't hear anything. So this is when I audition for a role, I audition for it, and then I send it in, and then I don't. So the thing is, I don't wait, meaning I forget about it. As soon as I submit for a role, I forget about it, because the waiting, you could just kill yourself waiting for something. And as soon as I submit for something, it's no longer in my mind. It's hard to get it out of your mind sometimes, but you got to really get into the habit of forgetting about it as soon as you submit for something, because if they're not going to select you for it, you'll never hear back. They don't reach out to every actor when they don't need them for the role. They only reach out when they do need them. So depending on the project, I don't know how long it takes for extras casting for Stranger Things. But you might just ask some of anybody that you know who has worked as an extra on the show, and ask them how long it takes them to hear back from casting. But otherwise, it's going to be different for every project. California is slowly starting to pick back up, mostly commercials, I think. Thank you for that information, JP. That's good to hear that they're slowly starting to pick back up. I'm 19 years old in India. I want to be a Hollywood actor, so I'll move to the U.S. for my career. So my question is, what work should I do when I come to America? Do a part-time job? Yeah, you can do a part-time job so that you can do both. Most people do that. The vast majority of actors have a part-time job. I think the service industry is what most people gravitate towards. So being a waiter, waitress, bartender type of industry job. But there are so many other things. Look at my one video that I did that's called 10 actors, 10 survival jobs. I said 20 because I have 10 more actors coming to do another follow-up video on that. But I talk about different survival jobs for actors that what actors are doing to make money outside of their career. But I also want to mention, when you come to the U.S., make sure that you get the work visa, because if you come to the U.S., it's not just being able to work as an actor. You have to get any job, even to be a server, a bartender, or a waiter, waitress. You need to have a visa that allows you to work in this country when you come to the U.S. Okay, so research that before you decide to make the jump over to the United States. I'm from Germany. I know it's easier to get started here than somewhere else, at least for me, but I really think German movies are cringy. I don't know what to do. I don't think I've ever seen a German movie, so I don't know how cringy they are. But look at the think about it like anything else. You're not always going to start at a position where you want to be in the future. That short film that I showed you earlier, my first little short film that I did, that's cringy to me to watch, to see that what I did 10 years ago. So, you got to start from where you are and start with what you have, and then eventually when you get to the point where You can potentially go to a new market, go to a place where the opportunities are more to your liking, then you move at that point. But, build your career where you are. And if it's easier for you to get into the industry and get started there, then that's great. That's fantastic, because it's really hard everywhere else. So definitely get started where you can. Should I get an agent and professional headshot right away or wait until I have more experience? I don't know what you mean by that. You will need, you don't necessarily need an agent right away, but you will need a headshot in order to audition for things. So highly recommend you start with acting classes. Start there if that's what you mean by experience. You don't need a headshot or an agent to start with acting classes. Go to class first. Then when you're ready to start auditioning for things, once you've done your training and start auditioning, then you will need a headshot to start auditioning. You won't need an agent right away, but you'll need a headshot to start auditioning for the smaller things, smaller projects. Okay. What would be the best advice you would give to an upcoming actor or actress about the industry, rejected audition roles, fame, and supporting your family all at once? It's a lot to balance. It's not an easy career. It's a very, very tough career. And fame, the one thing I'll say about fame is don't even think about fame when you're starting out. Fame is not fame. So when people talk about this industry and how much of it is luck and how much of it is hard work, fame is, to me, is 100% luck. You can become a great actor through hard work, but you can't become famous through hard work. Famous in this industry is luck. I'll give you an example. Let's say you and I both audition for something. We're auditioning for the lead role of a movie, but two different movies. You audition for one movie, and I audition for a different movie. And we both get the part, right? We were both great, and we both got the part in our respective movies. So through our hard work of all our training and all the acting classes we've done all the work, and now we got this great audition. I got a great audition for a movie, and I booked it through everything that I did. You got a great audition for your movie and you booked it, right? So we both did our jobs through our hard work and we booked the roles in our respective movies. My movie might become the next Star Wars and your movie might become nothing and nobody ever watches it. That's not your fault. And my movie becoming the next Star Wars had nothing to do with me. That was just because people loved the movie. Right? And then all of a sudden I become famous and you don't, but that was 100% luck on my part, because what if I had auditioned for your movie and you auditioned for mine, right? So that's the part of the fame that we have no control over. That part of the industry we have no control over. So that's why I say fame is 100% luck. You can't try to become famous. You can try to become famous in other aspects. Look, you can become a YouTube celebrity and you can become an Instagram star because you can control that. In acting, other people have so much control over your careers. All right, so trying to become famous as an actor is you're not gonna have any success if your goal is to try to become famous. But if your goal is to become a great actor and to become a working actor, then you actually have control over some of that. Okay. As far as rejection goes, you got to understand how this industry works and how many people are trying to audition for every single role. My one-liner roles. I'll just show you. I'm going to show you another example here. Let's see. All right, I'm going to share my screen again, and.
We should see.
One of the astronauts is still.
This is my scene from the 2017 movie Venom. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of the movie Venom. And I'll show you this scene right now. Let me share the screen. Play it.
We should see.
One of the astronauts is still alive.
We should see.
One of the astronauts is still alive.
That was it. It was one line, right? super short scene, one line. I'm way over here in the corner of the scene. You know, people. These are two of the main characters, so most of the people are watching this. I'm kind of an afterthought in this scene. Let me go back to just my webcam. So I'm kind of just a secondary, tertiary character in this little scene, and I just have the one line, and that's it, right? But in this scene, this particular role, thousands of people are trying to audition for this role. This is the industry. It's the most competitive industry in the world. So you gotta manage these expectations, okay? Your expectations of, like, when you get an audition, are you gonna book it? The chances are you're not gonna book it. That's just the honest truth. And that's how I approach my auditions. Chances are I'm not gonna book most of my auditions. I am now 12 years into my career. My booking rate right now is about 10%. So 9 out of 10 auditions I'm not gonna book. On average, I book about 1 in 10. When you're first starting out, and I have a ton of experience now, and I feel like my auditions are 100 times better than when I was first starting. So when you're first starting out and you're getting started in your career and you're not booking very much, quote unquote, very much, you got to really ask yourself, like, what your expectations are. I'm going to tell you right now, if you book 1 in 50 auditions when you're starting out, that's pretty good. Honestly. And it sounds like crazy, but think about it. Thousands and thousands of people are trying to get every single role. And if you book one, that's amazing right out of the gate. Okay? So if you're booking 5% of your auditions, 1 in 20 when you're starting out, that's already great. All right? So don't think that you're doing something wrong if you're not booking every other audition that you go in for, because that's most people. Most people are not booking very often. I think if you book 1 in 5 auditions, 20% booking ratio, then you're a rock star. You're one of the best actors in the world if you're booking 1 in 5. All right. All right. How do you find commercial casting calls? There are commercial casting directors. Honestly, it depends on your market. It depends on if you're in a big market, small market, right? So if you are in if you're in a bigger market, like here in Atlanta or New York or LA, then there are commercial casting directors, and you'll probably, in a market like LA, there will be specific commercial agents. So you'll get a separate agent for commercials compared to film and TV. Right? But in a small market like in Cleveland, where I first started, then commercial auditions will come straight to an agent. They really, a lot of times, won't go through a casting director. Some will, some won't. But again, through your acting classes in your city, you'll get a lot of these answers. And if you live in a small town, there probably won't be as many opportunities. And just search for the closest big city will probably have commercial casting directors and talent agencies that you can look for in acting classes in those cities. If there are talent agencies and casting directors in a city, then I guarantee you there are acting classes, because there are actors in that city. So look, if you live in a smaller market, then look at your nearest big city to see what they have to offer. Hello, Mr. Yu. How are you today? Thank you so much. I am doing very well. I'm happy to be on here with you guys answering your questions. What acting schools, coaches would you recommend in Atlanta? So I posted down in the comments of Drama Inc. That's a great one. If you're in Atlanta, I also encourage you to look up Pralgo's acting class. Let me post that as well. Robert Pralgo is one of my friends. He's a actor friend of mine. He's also a teacher. I love going into his class. So I'm going to add that to the comments here as well. Okay, so Drama Inc. and Pralgo's acting class are two that I recommend because I've taken those classes. There are plenty of others as well, other actors that I know that are teaching classes, and I respect these actors, but I've never taken their classes. So I can't give you firsthand accounts, but I know a lot of other people that have taken their classes that really like like those classes. So one is the Robert Mello Studio, again here in Atlanta. Let's see, another one is the Company Acting Studio. One of my great friends takes classes there, and she loves the classes there. Michael Cole's acting class is another one. Doherty Creative, which is Josh Doherty, teaches a class here, which is great. And there are plenty of others, other classes too that you can research on your own if you need to. There's so many scammers now. How do you know who's legit? So again, try to get other people's opinions as best you can. Like, for instance, if you're researching an agent and it looks like someone you want to submit to, ask around. This is why, again, I've said it a million times, this is why acting classes are so beneficial, because they have the side benefit of having that community that you can ask. You could ask me, but I don't know every single agent. If you were in Atlanta and you ask me about agents or acting schools like someone just did here in Atlanta, I am connected here in this city. But if you're asking about a different city, I'm not connected in your city. But if you were in an acting class in your city, then they can definitely give you advice because they may have experience already with those classes or with those agents. Can working in a crowd scene help you live in the USA? I don't know what you mean by that. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by that question. Are agents bringing on new talent since the pandemic? Really depends on the agent. Some are, some are not. You'll have to look for that specific agency. Yeah, I think some people are starting to look at new talent, but others probably are not right now. When's your next live session? I have not decided yet, but I'm sure I will do another one because I think hopefully this is helpful for you guys. And yeah, people are still on the live session. Nobody has left. Well, I'm sure people have left, but not everybody has left. So I know at least some of you are finding this helpful. So I'm sure I'll do another one at some point. Let's see. Can I book a photo modeling with you? So I don't have. I don't take modeling photos. I take headshots for actors. So I'll post my link to my headshot website if you want to. If you are in Atlanta. But if you're not in Atlanta, it doesn't really make sense for you to travel here to take headshots with me. I would just recommend you find a great headshot photographer in your city. So here is a link to my headshot website if you want to take headshots with me. Let's see. What are some ways to obtain auditions outside of Actors Access or an agent? Like I said, I have a video on my YouTube channel about that. Ways to find auditions without an agent. You can look on. I've said it so many times already, but in acting class, I've gotten so many acting opportunities, audition opportunities through just my network, through someone telling me about an opportunity that they're heard about. So having that, being involved in the community and building your network. Acting teachers of yours, other students, other actors that you know, them helping you find opportunities. That's happened to me so many times. Being involved in Facebook communities, Facebook groups that have that are posting casting calls. Those aren't, a lot of times those aren't the greatest, but sometimes those have some good opportunities that pop up. And then also following casting directors and agents on social media, because like I said before, sometimes they are looking for a specific skill and they're reaching out and making a public casting call, and you can find things that way. So those are a few ways to do that. Did I see you in Cobra Kai? Yes, you did. I played George in Cobra Kai. Thank you so much for watching. It was the #1 show on Netflix for about a week there, and I'm sure it'll go back to #1 once season 3 comes out. But Cobra Kai was super fun show. I attended an online master showcase. My dream talent agent was there, but she was on her phone the whole time. That happens. That happens at casting sessions too. Sometimes casting directors are on the phone. And look, don't take it personally. In the past, I've looked at it and I thought it was rude, and it still is kind of. I mean, and they really should be, putting 100% of their attention on you if they're bringing you in for a casting session. I'm talking about casting directors in this particular instance. I'll get to your thing in a second, but sometimes you'll go into an audition and a casting director is on their phone, but they're working. A lot of times they have to be on their phone because they need to talk to the director. The director needs something from them, or they're giving them more information about the current project they're working on, and that's their job, and they're trying to balance 500 things at the same time, just like we are as actors. So I try to give them the benefit of the doubt. If they're on the phone, I'm fine with it because they're recording my audition, and she'll watch it back later on if she isn't watching at that moment, right? If you went to this online showcase and your agent was there, and there was an agent there and they weren't paying attention, should you reach out to her? I think it's fine. It just depends on how you're reaching out. If you already have a relationship with them, I would reach out. But if you don't have a prior relationship, then I think, usually they say that they'll contact you and not to contact them. You gotta understand that agents and casting directors, they're getting bombarded with emails from actors. I get bombarded with emails from actors and people messaging me on Instagram and stuff like that, and I don't even have time to answer all these questions, because that's why I'm doing this YouTube Live, is try to answer as many as I can here, because I'm not an agent, I'm not a casting director, I don't have any power in this industry to help you, get ahead, but I get tons of questions, so I can't imagine what agents and casting directors are just getting tons of emails. So you could potentially reach out. I just don't know. Don't be discouraged if they don't respond, because they probably are just overwhelmed with a lot of emails from actors all the time trying to get representation. Mind having a clothing designer brand as a second job. That'd be cool. That'd be really cool to be a fashion designer and also be an actor. What are your thoughts on getting a headshot as a character shot, like a police officer or a baker or a doctor? I think it's fine, but I wouldn't go, to me, and people have different opinions on this. And honestly, this is my opinion, and other people, I know other working actors, very well respected actors, that might think differently. So you'll have to kind of make your own decision. I'll just tell you what I think. I think it's fine to have character headshots, but I just won't go that far. So if I were doing like a doctor headshot, I'm not going to do a lab coat headshot, and that's me personally, because I'll do like a suit and tie, right? A professional headshot. That way, it doesn't limit me as a doctor headshot. So I can use that headshot to submit for anything as a business professional. I can use that headshot to submit for doctor roles, for lawyer roles, for corporate type of roles. Same thing with police officer. I might submit something a little like more of like the uniform type of look, but not necessarily with a badge and everything and a radio. That way, that uniform look can kind of look like a police officer, but can also look like an EMT, right? Any type of first responder. You can submit for all of those. Whereas if you have a badge and a radio on your shoulder and everything like that, then you kind of almost are limited to using that headshot only for police officer roles. All right. My father told me that you have to have a second job to do acting, but how do you manage your time between that second job and your acting? That's every single actor has to do that. There's not really any way around it until you become a celebrity, and that's very, very unlikely that happens in the early stages of your career. Then most actors will have to balance one or multiple second jobs to help fund, their acting career almost. And look at my video where I've interviewed 10 actors talking about their secondary jobs and how they are able to make it work, because they talk about how the flexibility of those jobs. So that's something where you can, spend some time looking for things that are flexible, opportunities to work in jobs that can be more of a complementary career. One of my good friends who I interviewed in that video, Moretta Moss, she's a realtor. She had a great line in our interview, and she says that she looks at her real estate job as a complementary career. It's not her side hustle. It's not her survival job. It's a complementary career. So she's pursuing both real estate and acting at the same time, and they both are able to help each other, and she's able to make it work in that way. Are jean jackets good for headshots? Yeah, sure. If it works for your character, then sure, it's good. It's a good look. If it works well for you, then yeah, I think that's fine. I'm an actor in Atlanta. I've been attending Nick Conti Acting Studio, and I've been interested in branching out. What classes have you been taking? So I highly recommend the classes at Drama Inc. That's where I've taken most of my classes here in Atlanta. Also, Rob Prago's acting class. I've linked both of them down in these comments, so go ahead and look through those comments for those classes. If I post monologues on YouTube, can that be useful for a beginner actor? Yeah, I think that's useful, and it's also useful to get used to having that camera on you. So if you're recording yourself for your YouTube videos, then that's fantastic. Get used to having a camera recording you, and make that a normal part of your life. How do I know my type? So that's a great question. That's an interesting thing that a lot of actors have to deal with, is knowing your type as an actor and what type of person that you typically play. Because we love to think as actors, because I'm an actor, I can play anything, right? But when you're first starting out, what the types of roles that you're going to gravitate towards are the characters that really fit your actual personality. So if you are a shy person, then it actually helps for you to audition for roles of a character that is shy. This actually happened to me when I auditioned for a role for a show called Good Behavior, for this character that was kind of shy, and the scene really needed that. And I can act shy, right? You can quote unquote pretend to be shy and pretend to have this character that is shy, or there might be an actor who in real life, that person is really shy, and when they do the scene, they can just be themselves, right? So for me, the best roles that fit me, and this is my type, are me just being myself. And myself, I'm kind of like, I tend to gravitate towards the roles of a corporate type person, a guy in a suit. That tends to be my type, and that's kind of fits my personality as well. So you'll look for the roles that kind of fit your personality. If you watch movies and you watch television shows, and you see characters that are like your character, like your personality, and you see that character reminds me of me, not necessarily what they look like, but how they behave, right? That character reminds me of me, then that is your type. That is the type that you would tend to play on television. And then if your looks kind of match that, then that's perfect, right? So, when someone talks about like what's your type, especially if you're a younger actor, right? Your type might be a student, but a student isn't a type, because everybody is a student at some point in their lives. Your type can be the straight A student, or your type can be the class clown, or your type can be the student that doesn't really care about their homework and is just, blowing everything off. Like, what is your type within the world of, if we talk about like Cobra Kai takes place A lot of the scenes take place in the school, so there are different students and different types. There's the bully, there's the jock, there's the straight A student, right? So all of those are types, and think about what you really are as a person, as a human being. You bring that type of personality to your character, and that really influences your type, and that informs what you end up playing. Am I explaining for Hollywood only? So not necessarily. Well, yes and no. I'm explaining for like the industry in the United States because this is really the industry that I know. I don't know really about the industry in other countries. So when you say Hollywood, yes, I'm talking about in the industry here in the U.S. Not necessarily in Hollywood, California, but the movies and television shows that are made here in the U.S. Do you expect virtual auditions callbacks to become the norm? Maybe, at least the first round of auditions. I think self-taping is going to be becoming the... Self-taping has already been the norm here in Atlanta and in the Southeast. And honestly, when I was in Ohio, it was very prevalent as well. And I think it's going to be kind of worldwide. Self-taped auditions, recording your auditions at home, is going to be becoming the norm, at least for the first round of auditions. Callbacks, I've seen a lot of callbacks via Zoom. I think after this pandemic passes, hopefully sooner rather than later, I think a lot of callbacks will continue to stay via Zoom, but I think they still will bring callbacks in person because directors will still want to work with actors in person and be able to talk to them at callbacks and redirect and everything like that. Is it 9:40 a.m. for you too? No, here in Atlanta, it's almost 1 p.m. now. So I started at 11 a.m. my time, and right now it's 12:45 p.m. What advice do you have for foreign actors? Same as everybody else. Start finding acting classes in your city to start that way. If you've already been taking acting classes, then branching out in your market and trying to get your career started in your city, in your country, before trying to do anything else. Like I said earlier, if you do want to eventually have a career here in the United States, then you have to find a way to be here. It's very, 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 very hard, almost impossible to try to act in something while living in another country, unless you are already a superstar. Like Benedict Cumberbatch is a foreign actor. Emilia Clarke is a foreign actor. Hugh Jackman is a foreign actor. They aren't actors from America, but they made it here because they were already successful actors in their country first. Do you need a lot of experience to be an extra in Stranger Things season 4 or 5? No, you don't need to be experienced. You don't need to have experience to be an extra or a background actor on a movie or show. You don't have to have any acting classes. You don't have to have an agent. You can be an extra today without any experience. But to be an extra, you really got to be in the location where they film the show. Stranger Things films in Atlanta, Georgia. So if you don't live in Atlanta, they're not going to hire an extra from a different city because extras, a lot of times they need them last minute. They say, hey, we need you here. We need you for something that's shooting tomorrow. And if you don't, and for the people that live in the city, they can say, yeah, I can be there. But if you live in another city, you can't be here by tomorrow morning, then how are they going to be able to get you here? And for extras, they don't pay any travel. For some speaking roles, they'll pay actors to travel to the city, but for extras, they won't pay your travel. So that's why it's almost impossible to be an extra in a project if you don't live in the city. So Stranger Things specifically, you got to be in Atlanta to be an extra on this project. Are online classes worth it? Yeah, it depending on the classes, for sure. There are some fantastic acting teachers that are offering online classes right now. I'm 17. I'm a senior. I took acting classes for 3 months. What other classes should I take? It depends on what classes you already took. I mean, but scene study classes. Have you taken that? Have you taken on-camera classes? Have you taken audition technique classes? Have you taken improv classes? Have you taken voice and movement classes? Have you learned any accents? Have you done stage combat? Have you learned any tactical and firearms training or something like that? If you want to do action movies, like there's so many potential. Have you done stunts? If you want to get into stunts, so many potential things that you can take to branch out in your career. So, just find the next class that works well for you and move forward. And that just know that, you've been taking acting classes for 3 months. I've been taking acting classes for 12 years. So this is not something that you're going to stop doing in your career. If I want a job in a commercial or be an extra, do you think that'll be possible? It's totally possible to be an extra. So just make sure that you know who to contact. Whatever your city you're in, find out who the extras casting directors are and be on their radar. Make sure you know how they can reach out to you when they need extras. Thank you for saying that, Kurt. I don't know what I said, Shahid, that you're thanking me for, but it's probably a while ago because I'm getting through these comments super slow. What do you do when your parents don't support your dreams? I really don't know. I can't really help you with family dynamics. Families are really tough to deal with. So, yeah, really hard thing to deal with there. I would say, at one point you become an adult and you make your own decisions and you decide to do what you want to do. A lot of times, honestly, though, I will say, your family is not necessarily trying to crush your dreams. I can't say specifically for your situation, but I know a lot of times if your family wants the best for you, they're not necessarily trying to not support your dreams. They just don't want to see you suffer because the acting career can be very, very tough, and they don't necessarily want to see you have a tough life. So that's why they may not be quote unquote supporting your dreams. They may just want to see what in their eyes is a better life for you. But in my mind, I made more money when I was a software developer than currently while as an actor. But I would never go back to being a software developer because I love what I'm doing right now so much more. So that's why I encourage people to pursue their dreams, and that's why I encourage people to pursue this if they really love acting. If you're in it to become rich and famous, it's not going to be the career for you because your heart's really not in the right place. But if you're in it because you really love to do what you got to do, then you can really have a shot at making this your career. I'm from Ohio. Whoop whoop, yeah. Can I put online classes on my resume? Depends on the class. Like this little Q&A thing is not really an acting class, so you wouldn't put this on your resume. If you're watching my YouTube videos, that doesn't go on your resume. But if you have an online class where it's like a Zoom class, you're getting feedback from the teacher, like you get to perform and they watch you perform and they give you feedback, then that's a real online class that you can put on your resume for sure. What's a good second job when you're trying to get that perfect first role? There's no perfect first role first of all. There's no such thing as a perfect first role. Expect your second job. Here's what I recommend. I want you to think of your quote unquote second job that you're going to have for the rest of your life. I don't want you to try to find a job that you get that you can't you're only looking forward to quit one day. For instance, my second job is a photographer. I would love to keep doing photography along with acting for the rest of my life. I don't want to quit being a photographer ever. My friends that are doing real estate are not looking forward to quitting real estate. They like doing real estate, and they like being realtors. So I would encourage you to find a second job that you want to continue to do along with your acting career. And like my friend Moretta said, make that your complementary career. And that's going to help you so much in the future of your career, because you're not going to have those terrible years where you're not making a lot of money acting, because every actor is going to have ups and downs in their careers. Okay, so having that second income throughout the entirety of your career is really going to be beneficial. How do you get into a character, feel the emotions of the character? How do you practice it? You know, I can't teach you how to do this via this situation. Being in a class, you have to go to an acting class to learn how to do these things. I equate it to like if you want to learn how to box, right? You want to learn how to be a boxer, and you want to go into a ring and actually become a professional boxer. You can't learn it by just doing it at home. You can't learn boxing by hitting a bag. You can't learn it by just practicing by yourself, because you have to have that other person and get hit, right? As a boxer. Same thing with acting. When you're acting a scene, there are other people in that scene. You have to, even a monologue has another person. A monologue is you talking, you're not just talking to a wall. A monologue is you're talking to another person. So being in an acting class is so important because you have other people, you have other actors to work with. If you're only practicing acting at home and you're not in an acting class and you're not working with other actors, then when you go on set and you work with another actor for the first time, you're going to be completely thrown off. So that's why it's so important to be in class. So you're talking about getting into character, feeling emotions, all that type of stuff. You learn that in class. You learn, because getting into character and feeling emotions happens from other characters, from other actors. You don't just feel emotions from nothing. You feel emotions because somebody made you happy, somebody made you sad, somebody made you angry, and that needs to happen from the other actors. And that's why having that class, you can't just stand in a room and just feel angry. You can sort of do that if you use your imagination and think of events that'll make you angry or happy or sad or something like that, and that's fine. But what's really happening is that in a scene, somebody says something that causes you to feel that way, and you got to learn how to do that in an acting class. All right. Again, I'm skipping a few questions here and there because they're questions that I've answered already. If you want to watch these, then just watch the replay of this video and you'll see what my answers are. I'll be signing off soon because this has already been close to 2 hours. So I've had a great time answering these. I'm gonna try to scroll through the rest of these questions a little quicker to see if there's anything that's a new question before we sign off for the day. How do you find out for auditions for Netflix and Hulu? I mean, it's the same thing for anything. Auditions, it's not that it has nothing to do with the show being on Netflix or Hulu. It has to do with where that production is filming. For instance, the Netflix show Stranger Things films in Atlanta. So it doesn't matter that the show's on Netflix. It matters that the show films in Atlanta. So actors that live in Atlanta have a better opportunity to audition for Stranger Things because it films in Atlanta. The show, there are shows that film in Los Angeles. There are shows that film in New York. There are Netflix shows that film in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so, there are shows that film in Chicago. So if I wanted to audition for the movie or the show Chicago PD, that films in Chicago, I have better opportunities to audition for that show if I lived in Chicago, right? So when you ask for auditions for Netflix, you got to be talking about like what specific show or movie are you targeting, and that'll help you determine like where you potentially need to be for those auditions. Let's see. You're not too late to pursue acting at 27. I started at 26. I know plenty of people that started well after 30, 40, or even after 50 or 60. If you're starting your acting career, it is my opinion that Atlanta is the best place to start for a newer actor if you want to pursue a career in film and television, because there are many, many great opportunities here, and at the same time, the market is not as saturated as a place like Los Angeles or New York. That doesn't mean there is not there is no competition here. There is still a ton of competition here, but there's not as much as in a place like LA or New York. There are also great acting classes, great places to train here, a great community if you want to start building your reel and your resume by doing short films and independent films. Student films. There are plenty of opportunities for that here in Atlanta as well. So in my opinion, I've talked about that on my YouTube channel so many times about how great Atlanta is for someone who wants to start out their career. How do you feel about playing stereotypical roles that feed into a lack of awareness about different cultures? Yeah, I think that's a important thing that's happening in the industry right now. I think they're moving forward. I think that Hollywood is moving in a good direction right now, in that they're starting to try to be more open-minded and start to try to not write so many stereotypical roles for a lot of times for minority characters. For someone like myself, I try not to do any auditions for roles that do like a stereotypical Asian character with an accent. But it depends on the story. If it makes sense for the story, if the character makes sense that they, are an immigrant to the country and they'll have an accent and they're not doing the accent as a joke, then I think it makes sense. But for the most part, for me, I'm a person that grew up here in the United States. So I don't speak with an accent normally. So most of the roles that I audition for are characters that don't have an accent. But I think Hollywood is moving in the right direction, albeit maybe slow, but they're moving in the right direction as far as stereotypes and things like that. All right. How do you join acting classes in the USA? I live in Nepal. There are online classes that you can look up right now. I posted a few in the comments. Or otherwise, you just have to be here in this country. That Leonardo DiCaprio example hit home. Good. Yeah, we gotta keep training. Even Halle Berry in her Oscar acceptance speech when she won her Oscar, Halle Berry thanked her acting coach. She worked with an acting coach for her movie. This is an Oscar winner, another Oscar winner, thanking her acting coach, right? So really important to continue training. Same thing, like think about it like professional athletes. Just because athlete made it to the NBA, that basketball player doesn't stop having a coach. NBA players still have coaches. NBA players still go to practice every day, and coaches still coach them on their games, right? So actors, there's no difference for actors. We got to keep practicing and keep going to class and training. I like both acting and the idea of being rich. Yeah, for sure. I think most people do too. I've been attending workshops with a company called 99. So I'm not super familiar with 99, but I've heard some stories, and the stories that I've heard about 99 are not great. But I can't tell you my personal opinion on that company because I have never dealt with them before. But I've heard from other people that 99 is not a great company to work with. But that's just what I've heard. Does your type change with age and experience in acting? Of course, yeah. When when I was younger, I can play a student. But right now, I got gray hairs. I'm not a student anymore. I would more commonly play a professor than a student. So your type is definitely changing as you're getting older. Combating low confidence. Again, go to acting class. Go to a supportive acting class that can definitely help you with your confidence. It can definitely help you with your if you have stage fright, if you get nervous. That is something a great acting class will absolutely help you with. Do you know any acting coaches in New York? I don't personally know any, but there absolutely are. So do some research for sure. There are probably more acting coaches in New York than any other city other than LA. So do some research and ask around, and I'm sure you will get some recommendations. Are there age limits because I'm almost 40? I don't know what you mean by age limits. I mean, like I said earlier, I know actors that started their acting career after they retired, so after 60 years old, and they've been in movies and television shows since then. So absolutely not. You can start your acting career at any age. Would they pay for a teenager to fly for a role? Depends on where you are. Depends on where you are, depends on the role. I've been paid, they've paid me to fly to Chicago for a role. They've paid me to fly to other cities for roles. But if you're in another country, it's not about them paying for that. If you're in another country, it's not about them paying you to fly. It's whether or not it's legal for them to hire you. If you don't have a work visa, then it's illegal for them to hire you. So it doesn't matter if they have the money to pay for you. That's not the issue. The issue is if they're allowed to hire you or not. All right, I think we're approaching the end here, guys. A lot of these. What acting websites would you recommend? I don't know what you're looking for specifically. Acting classes, I've posted a few already. If you're looking for auditions here in the United States, then Actors Access and Backstage Casting Networks, those three are the most common websites that are used here. All right, guys, I think that's about it. I know there's probably a lot of questions that I'm missing because we've already gone 2 hours now, and there's probably a lot more questions down here at the end that I never got to. But we'll probably do another one of these later on. Try to get in early and get your questions in early so I can get to them. But otherwise, hopefully this was helpful for those of you who did get your questions answered. I'll see you next time. I'll continue to keep posting videos on my YouTube channel that aren't these live chats, and then we'll see if this was helpful. Then I'll do another live chat sometime in the future to answer more of your questions here. All right. Until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and like I always say, I hope to see you on set one day. Bye, guys.